Right, so now it's the time to look forward to the very near future as good racing continues this weekend on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, where we have top class action at both Newbury and at Cheltenham. And we'll begin by looking at the Challow Novices Hurdle, which comes up on Saturday. If you can remember what day of the week it even is at this stage. But yeah, we have a lot more runners than we were initially expecting for this race. So James, yeah, a lopsided market, but how are you assessing the Challow at this stage?
Well, yeah, we were talking off air just before, and we couldn't believe, could we, that 14 are going to post for the Challow. And obviously, we've jumped on air for this straight away. So we'd love to check how many runners over the last few years there's actually been, but it's never been as big as these fields for this race. Obviously, Paul Nicholls got a cracking record over the last 2 years. Also won it with Denman. And before that, Stage Star Brave Man's Game. And he's got obviously the top of the market here, hasn't he, with Hermes Allen. Hermes Allen was one of the most expensive point-to-port horses seen this year, costing $350,000 at Cheltenham's December meeting. But from what he's done over hurdles both times, at Stratford by winning by 27 lengths, he just looked a bit of a freak that day, didn't he? And then when going to Cheltenham, booked out in front and went on to win by 9 lengths, beating some quite nice horses, actually. Obviously, we spoke to Sam Twiston-Davies, didn't we? And We've All Been Caught was behind him that day. They think very highly of that horse. A Briscoe for Willie Mullins came over. I think it was probably a fact-finding mission, wanting to see where that horse lies against these horses. And that day he went from 33s into 10s for the Ballymore. I think he wins this race. I know there's 14 going to post, but I just think from the way Paul Nicholls' record's been, comparing this horse to these, I think this horse is going to be up there with your likes of Brave Man's Game and probably going to be better than Stage Star. I know it's a tougher renewal, but I think he's going to win this race. The one I would play each way at this point, currently around 10-1 in the market, is Attica for Nicky Henderson. We talked about this horse on a previous episode when beating Master Chewy, when we spoke to Sam Twiston-Davies. But when I was talking about this horse, I wanted to see him go up to 2 mile 4. It's exactly what he's got here. I think he's a stayer in the making. At 10-1, I can't wait to see him over this trip because he just doesn't give up. And the way Nico de Boinville rode him last time out was absolutely brilliant. I hope he gives him a very similar ride. So from a win perspective, I think Hermes Allen's going to be very difficult to beat, but not far behind him, Attica for Nicky Henderson for me.
Oh, I like it then. Yeah. So 2 ways to play this race, or you can do the forecast or whichever. James has given you multiple options there anyway. So 11-10 about Hermes Allen. It's Joan Machan. If Paul Nolan then is going to take his chance across the Irish Sea at 8-1, Vicky Vale 8-1, Attica 10s, Idalco Biu 12-1, 14-1, Barnick. So James just touched on there with Paul Nicholls' record in the race and the fact that he's bidding for a hat trick in this race as well, with Brave Man's Game and Stage Star winning the last 2 renewals. In your mind, I mean, A, are you siding with Hermes Allen? And B, if you are, where do you think he ranks in comparison to those 2 former winners of this race?
Well, it's the fact that also in Stage Star's year and in Brave Man's Game's year, Paul Nicholls really only had 1 horse he could realistically run in this race. He had lots of nice young horses, obviously he always does, but they were really the only horse he was ever talking about running here. The difference this year is that there are 3 or 4 he could have run here. All of whom have shown quite a lot of talent, and he made no hesitation in nominating MS Allen about a month ago for this. The way he jumped at Cheltenham really was the most striking aspect of his performance for me. It was the economy of effort, the speed with which he got from one side of the hurdle to the other. I think he's probably the fastest horse in this race, but who wants to be playing him at that kind of price? He's already, what is he, 6-5, James?
Yeah, 6-5, yeah.
I mean, that's tight, isn't it? In a 14-runner race where there's so much potential. A lot of it's guessology. Joao Machin's got more form to go at and was very impressive last time, but that win's taken a couple of big knocks over the Christmas period from a form perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that Gordon Elliott has another go at him with the 3rd Kansas City Star, but the runner-up's been thrashed over Christmas. So I think I'd be looking elsewhere for an alternative. I take James's point about Attica. Nothing not to like about what he's done so far. The horse that really intrigued me was Jamie Snowden's one right down the bottom. Snowden had 3 in here initially. He's gone for 2, passing well and You Wear It Well. You Wear It Well clearly is the pick on jockey bookings and has been kept to minor tracks so far, Ludlow, Catterick, Worcester and Hexham. But he's absolutely bolted up the last 3 times. He looks to have lots of pace. They've clearly saved him for this, and he ought to improve for the step up in trip. And I don't think he'll mind if there's a bit more rain either. So I think he'd be the no, he's not exactly a wild one. He's 3 from 4, but he'd be the darker one, I think, that I'd be interested in.
Yeah, 14-1 then, like you say, all kept to those smaller tracks and throughout your Catricks, Worcesters and Hexhams, but certainly form not to be underestimating anyway for Jamie Snowden. Seemingly first string there, Gavin Sheehan booked on You Wear It Well. So like that angle a lot.
Jamie Snowden's quite a shrewd operator. He's sitting there with a horse that's rated 125.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could be talking about winning a serious handicap hurdle or two with and winning a lot of money with a horse if you think he's well weighted. You know, sticking him straight in a Grade One. Yeah, that handicap mark's going to get blown if he runs well, but they might not mind.
No, exactly. Yeah, and interesting then as well. And with the £7 mare's allowance that she's going to be receiving too, is just going to be fascinating to see exactly why they have taken this quite brave decision to therefore run over then in the Challow Novices Hurdle all the same. So I like this. I like these ways to play this race. Now on New Year's Day, we're back to Cheltenham, where the Grade Two Dipper Novices Chase and the Grade Two Relkeel Hurdle are the feature contest. So Nick, starting with the Dipper, please. And it's that man again, Paul Nicholls, who has the favourite, Monmoral at 6-4, but right behind him, Thunder Rock for the banging form Ollie Murphy team, 8-1 about Beauport, which is also the price about Bold Endeavour, and 10-1 bar about the remaining 5 entries, because obviously we don't have decks at this stage. So how are you assessing this race, Nick?
I'm assessing it in that I probably want to be taking on Monmoral, even though I accept the fact that he came up against a wonderful horse in John Bonnet at Warwick. I just think he's a sort of horse who at this stage of his career, his price always appears to be based more on his reputation, I think, than his actual achievement. I know he was a very, very good juvenile hurdler, but if you go back, what was he actually beating during that season? What was he actually achieving? You know, since he's been in senior company, since he's been out of juvenile company, I'm not sure that his form necessarily would entitle him to that sort of price. So I would be inclined, if Beauport runs, to forgive one poor run, because I'm a forgiving kind of guy. I think he bounced off his big effort at Carlisle, to be honest, next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think many people would agree with you that as well. And he has been freshened up since. And 8-1 then about Beauport at this stage. Of course, we are just looking at this race from, without any declaration. So it is just trying and guess exactly which horses are going to rock up here. But James, your opinion on the Dipper?
I'll be with in Nick's camp here. I'll be taking on Monmoral. I think if you look at the moment, the ground's good at Cheltenham. There is showers supposed to fall, so he will. I don't think even if it's good ground, he won't run it as well, because he said that in the past. I think Monmoral's the wrong favourite anyway, and for that reason, I wanted to take him on. And Thunder Rock was the one I'd play here if going. He's currently jocked up, but we all know that Adrian Heskey was going to ride him anyway, and we have got to wait to see it officially declared. But for me, if you look at Thunder Rock, he's the highest rated chaser in the field, of what rated 150, having won a handicap the time before. Yes, he's going up into Grade Two company here, but from his 2 runs and last time shown at Ascot, he was absolutely superb. I can understand Nick's case about Beauport, and I could actually forgive that run as well. He was giving away a lot of weight.
To be fair, he'd probably want to drop more rain as well, in all honesty.
Yeah, he probably would. But I think if you look at Thunder Rock, he's got no problem on good ground. And even if he did go to good to soft, he's won on that before as well. I think he should be the favourite, and because he isn't the favourite, that would be the way I'd play at this stage for me. And Ollie Murphy, I really do like Ollie Murphy. I think he's got some cracking horses in training that maybe some are really well handicapped, and I hope he goes on to finally get that Cheltenham Festival winner this season. So yeah, Thunder Rock for me. And obviously this race last year was won by Long Press, so I don't think we've got a horse in here like that. But it's obviously a race to go on to see horses that potentially could go to the festival. So in that race, it would be Thunder Rock for me at this stage.
Yeah, the banging form Ollie Murphy at the minute as well, hasn't he? It's all of a sudden just come to the fore, all of his horses running very, very well. Now, we also have the aforementioned feature race on Sunday, which is the Grade Two Relkeel Hurdle, where Maurice Rock, who we spoke about earlier, is the current 5-2 favourite, who's 8-1 price tag for the Mare's Hurdle. Maybe clicked on the back of this, should she prove successful, from I Like to Move It at 3-1, Nappers Hill 4-1, 5-1 bar. So it's a hot contest from the betting front, at least, James, anyway. So your play, please.
Yeah, she's fascinating if she turns up, isn't she? 5-2. Look, it is short for a horse that you haven't seen since Punchestown last season. And again, she's coming back out of Mare's Company to go against the boys. I thought at 5-2, she might just be a bit skinny for her first run of the season, even though she is a really remarkable horse, looking to make it 4 out of 4. A horse. You probably might know where I'm going with this, Kate, because if he does go, Nappers Hill is a horse I really, really do like. I've got no problem going back up to 2 mile 4. He missed his engagement, obviously, in the international hurdle when Cheltenham was off. He was also entering the Christmas hurdle, but didn't go. They probably thought, you know what, we won't go there. We'll put him back up to 2 mile 4. We'll come here. It's an easier race. He wasn't going to beat Constitution Hill. I think he's currently around 4-1 in the market.
Yep.
Obviously, off the back of winning that Grade Two Elite Hurdle, beating So Royal in his backyard, I've got no problem playing Nappers Hill here at 4-1. He's going to be fresh. And the 2 mile 4 doesn't scare me at all. So I thought, looking at the prices, he was the one I would go for in this one. Yeah, Nappers Hill.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, 4-1. But it's so condensed, this market, even at this stage anyway. But yeah, Nappers Hill to continue his unbeaten, well, yeah, that succession of wins basically anyway. Yeah. And I mean, these 2 mile and 2.5 mile hurdlers, they've all been chucked together because we've lost so many of these races. I mean, it's great for us from a spectacle, at least anyway. So we know that James is liking Nappers Hill, but do you sort of factor in the fact that we've got that extra half a mile for this race?
A little bit. I mean, I think because you've got horses from all disciplines here, 2 milers, like I like to move it so far, and First Street, horses who are coming back in trip, like Dashel Drasher wants a bit further than this and slightly softer ground. If he runs, Brewing Up a Storm can certainly go further than this. I think the likelihood is this will be a proper test. And so it does change the complexion of it. I'm a massive First Street fan if he runs. I don't have any issue with him getting the trip, but I think the key to him is a strongly run race. I think he wants to be switched off a strong pace, and I think that's more than likely what he'll get on good ground. Thought that was a really good effort at Newbury, and he showed a bit more resolve and tenacity than I'd given him credit for last year, when I thought he was a little bit of a bridle horse. I thought that was a hell of an effort to give 2 stone to the runner up at Newbury on what was nearly good to firm ground. And win, and it won't be far off that if we don't get any rain at Cheltenham. So he'd be my pick if he runs.
First Street as well, hasn't he? He's got the form with Stateman, hasn't he? From that county hurdle. Obviously, we're recording on Thursday when the Matheson hurdle is going to be run. We could see Stateman frank that form again. We don't know at this time, but that form alone, you're right. I did look at that and think, if he can turn out to be the horse that not going to be as good as Stateman, but to follow in the footsteps of where he's gone with his career, he was obviously better than the mark that's shown. I thought he was interesting as well, Nick. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, see, to my eye, he's the sort of horse who could be a finishing third in the champion hurdle type of horse.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly, which is going to make him fascinating then for this race as well. And if he goes and wins this, but like you say, kind of looking at the champion hurdle at this stage, you are probably looking for those horses that are going to try and fill the frame, and at big anti-post prices currently. And if First Street goes and wins there, well, yeah, he looks a bit of a gimme for that race. So yeah, First Street to hopefully confirm the earlier promise. Now, James, before we wrap up, I just want to head to you, please, for anything else that's caught your eye over the weekend at this stage. Of course, we haven't given you much time for this.
Yeah, so just the one I'd mention off the back of the races we've covered, and Jet Powered's obviously been declared for the introductory hurdle at Newbury. He's obviously second favourite at the moment for the Supreme, linked with Marine Nationale. I think he's around 6-7-1 in the market. If he goes and wins in that race, he's going to be much shorter, isn't he? So I'd definitely have a look at that. And we also, for talking about Hermes Allen before, we have a little special that we should be on the bottom of the screen, that he's now 16-1 to win the Challow hurdle and then go win the Ballymore. So if you're going to back him, he's obviously going to be short for the Ballymore as well. So there's just the things I bring your attention to. But it's obviously, we've got a great Christmas period, but some also fascinating racing towards the festival as well over the next few days.